Lot of stuff going on with the Texans. Hell of a lot of stuff going on with your Houston Texans. Let's start with an interesting report. And you've got to take these with a grain of salt. So hear me out on this. One of the most polarizing NFL reporters, Jason Locker. I mix up his name because a lot of people call him Jason No Confirma. But Jason Locker, now of the Washington Post, he put out an interesting report in which he discusses the possibility of Nick Caserio potentially being one and done with the Houston Texans. This is what Jason Locker had to say about Nick Caserio and what he's hearing. And if you listen to this stream and you watch this stream and you listen to my show, I've heard a lot of people throw out this as well. I still look at this with a grain of salt and take it as such. But I said the same thing, and I think I said it a week ago, and I've said it on the show. There are more people around town that are like openly discussing whether or not Nick Caserio could be gone after 1 year. This is what Locker said, quote, "There has been increasing chatter about the Houston Texans making more front office changes after the season. Multiple executives I've spoken to, take that with a grain of salt, believe general manager Nick Caserio is not nearly on as solid footing as he was in the past. Longtime Caserio ally Jack Easterby, a former team chaplain with the New England when Caserio was there, who became most influential executive in Houston, was abruptly fired in October. The Texans are the NFL's lone one-win team, and they are facing looming coaching decision. Having Caserio fire Lovie Smith 1 year after also making David Culley a one-and-done coach seems untenable to some NFL agent and executive communities. Starting entirely from scratch might have better optics. If the Texans do, in fact, believe another coaching change is in order, several general managers I've talked to said they not only think Caserio would still be there to fire Smith and be part of the next hiring circle. Houston's rebuild has been agonizing. Signs of progress have been limited at best, and Houston's ownership has been erratic since Cal McNair took over after his father's death in 2018. Here's the quote. "Keep an eye on that one," said one high-ranking NFL official who's interviewed with the Texans in the past and knows the organization well, but who spoke on the condition of privacy, blah, 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 because he didn't want to put this out there publicly. I don't think Nick gets to fire another coach, especially with Easterby gone. I'm hearing there is more to come there. So there we go. Nick Caserio, one and done. Two and done, I should say. It sounds crazy. I don't think that it will happen, but let me ask you this. In a world where Frank Reich can get fired for the job he's done in Indianapolis, and John Robinson can get fired for the job he's done in Tennessee, is it really that crazy to imagine Nick Caserio getting fired? I don't think so. I don't think it's that crazy to think about that and that being a possibility. Now, do I think it should happen? Probably not. I don't think so. But would it be the craziest thing I've heard? No. Would it be a ballsy move by Cal and Hannah McNair and a chance for them to kind of start their own thing? And I think they're very capable of doing that. Yeah, it would. Now, you'll also hear, well, Landry, Nick Caserio inherited a mess, and a lot of the mess was not his own fault, and you've got to take that into account. Okay. Frank Reich had Super Bowl aspirations, and he had a 29-year-old. Now, and I know Cal McNair is not Jim Irsay, but Frank Reich had a 29-year-old quarterback in his prime retire abruptly. That seems like kind of some bad luck. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that I've been talking to people and they say, well, anyone could have got them out of this mess. Anyone could have gotten them through the sticks. What has Nick Caserio specifically done? And that's fair too. I just think it's something to keep an eye on, and there does seem to be a lot more smoke there. Facebook user, oh no, clickbait, but go ahead, Landry. I don't know if it's clickbait or not. I think it's just a possibility, and I don't think it's as crazy as it once seemed. Maybe Cal and Hannah want to do their own thing. Who knows? Has Nick Caserio earned the right to be GM another year is a question. That's something they're going to have to figure out. I think he did a good job getting through the sticks with the Deshaun Watson thing. But again, what choice did he have? 713 Sports, LFG. What's it going to cost to get Sean Payton? I think Sean Payton goes to Los Angeles. I think he replaces Brandon Staley. I don't know what the cost would be. I don't know. I don't know that he would want that. So you want me to get you or no? Don't know what that means. Travis Phillips says, man, I'm not mad at you, Landry, but you've done a 180 on Nick Caserio the last few weeks. You used to be on the Caserio trade. I think he needs to be judged after next season. I haven't really done a 180. I just think that in this situation, he needs to be proactively evaluated. I've made that very clear. I think he said some silly stuff. I think the way in which stuff was handled 2 Wednesdays ago was absolute silliness. And I think he needs to be looked at closely because just like Lovie Smith, I thought was a fine hire for this year, I think the same evaluation needs to happen with Nick Caserio. There's no 180. I'm not saying Nick Caserio needs to get fired. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't seem that crazy, and there are more and more people being open to it. Would the McNairs like to do their own thing? Would they like to if Jack Easterby is gone, how much was Nick Caserio aligned with Jack Easterby? Like how much was Nick Caserio down with firing Jack Easterby? That's a question you got to ask. I don't think he could have fired him when he first got here, but there's no 180. Not at all. I think he needs to be evaluated. I do think the other thing, if you want it, because the way that Nick Caserio is going to be evaluated, he's gotten you through the mess. He did an excellent job with the Deshaun Watson trade. Excellent. Props to him. I don't know too many people who could have handled that better. And the Watson camp, they respect Nick Caserio, and they know that they're going to do business with him in the future. They're aware of that. But if you look at, let's just look at his drafts right now. And it's early to evaluate drafts, but let's look at 3 of his most significant draft picks. Okay. Cause he had limited compensation 2 years ago. Let's look at 3 of his, let's just look at 3 of his draft picks. And I think the Davis Mills pick was fine. Davis Mills, 3rd round pick. That was fine. We'll get into Davis Mills in a second. He traded up for Nico Collins. He really wanted Nico Collins to be, he wanted Nico Collins to be, my bad. I just got to tell, hey, Jalen Petry's going to join the show tomorrow. So Texan safety, Jalen Petry coming off his game. He's going to be on In the Loop tomorrow. Sports Radio 610. Fire up that Odyssey app. So there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. He's coming. But he traded up for Nico Collins. And he gave up a lot to get Nico Collins. You know what receiver went after Nico Collins? I'll just focus on guys that play the same position. St. Brown from the Lions. Who do you think's a better player? Seriously, and I like Nico fine, but who do you think's a better player? So you can make a case, it's early, that he kind of misevaluated that. You needed a wide receiver. Imagine how much different you look at the position. Say, as much as you like Nico, and I love Nico, I think he works his ass off. I think he's a great kid, all that. But if St. Brown didn't take him, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner. I think it's too early to evaluate those guys. I think there's system problems, but everyone I talked to, including Jeff Kavanaugh from up there in Dallas, he said Sauce Gardner was the right pick. A lot of coaches feel that way. Some are saying Sauce Gardner is the best looking rookie corner they've ever seen. So some people would say he screwed that up. Kenyon Green's had the worst rookie season that I've ever seen a rookie have, especially someone that we thought was going to be a plug and play. Tyler Linderbaum looks like he's going to be a really good center in Baltimore for a long, long time. So those are like 3 picks. And look, that could all change a year from now. I talk about the RG3 and Andrew Luck comparison. If we just had that conversation 1 year into their tenure, there were people saying that, Washington got over on the Colts. So it is early, but that's how he's going to be evaluated. And if other guys who do very good job at their job are fired, would it be that crazy? And with Cal and Hannah now taking over and needing to be proactive and needing to get the job done, do Cal and Hannah make a proactive, ballsy decision? Because sometimes proactive, ballsy decisions are needed by ownership to get things heading in the right direction. And I appreciate the job Nick Caserio has done getting through the mud. But it's just something to think about. A few decent late round picks. Yeah, I guess someone needs to get fired ASAP. That could be Lovie Smith. Juan, I read he wanted Garrett Wilson with the Kenyon Green pick and Breece Hall with the Petrie pick. Would you have preferred those players over the ones we have? I like Jalen Petrie. I think he's going to be a good player. I'm fine with that. Garrett Wilson, yeah, I think Garrett Wilson's probably a little bit better ball player than Kenyon Green at this point. I know I say it's early, but I mean, the way that Kenyon Green looks right now, I don't know how many people are buying stock in him. Travis says, in my mind, if we keep Lovie another year, that's a clear sign that we're going to clean house at the top of the bottom of next offseason. If we move on from Nick and his new coach, who are we going to get in a few years? Don't know. Nick did handle the Watson trade well. He handled it excellently. He deserves all the credit in the world for that. He did a good job. What do you think of Jeremy Branham's point in tanking for Caleb? I think it's silly as hell. Can the Texans trust Nick with draft equity and money to make the right decisions? That's the question that they're going to have to ask. And that's where proactive evaluation comes into play. I'm not calling for either side of things. I'm just saying there seems to be a little bit more smoke there. If you compare the Texans to a major corporation, they would be out of business. I don't want to do that crap. Nick does that enough. He likes to compare it to Apple and all that stuff. I'm not into that bullshit type of thing. Figgy Fig could draft better than Caserio. Don't know. But Figgy does a lot of good things. Jalen Petrie is going to end up being the best player Nick drafted in 2022. Very possible. It looks that way. Bingo. Should have been Sauce. Manny says, is it fair to still be skeptical that Cal knows how to bring in the right people after he made the BOB the GM and gave Easterby? Any skepticism you have about Cal McNair is warranted. 100%. Although I do think that Cal listens. I do think that Cal cares. We do know that Cal isn't cheap. And I do think that Hannah is a good balance of him. And I also think he has the right business guys in place. And they got a very well-run organization outside of the actual football product. I don't expect them to be good at this point. Next year could be absolutely huge. Someone says KG is trash. Yeah. I mean, he's had an awful rookie year. There's no other way to put it. How many resets are the Texans going to need? You don't lose momentum if you get rid of Nick Caserio. That's the one case against, like, I don't think you lose some sort of crazy momentum, especially considering you're bringing in a new coach. So I don't look at it as like a reset. I look at it as a cleaning house and you're still going in the right direction. Cleveland did it. I mean, Cleveland did it post Johnny Manziel. They had Sashi Brown for 2 years. They brought in John Dorsey. John Dorsey drafted his ass off, and then they got rid of John Dorsey and brought in Andrew Berry, and they never lost any momentum. So I don't look at it as a reset. I mean, whatever GM it is, whether it's Nick Caserio or whoever, they're going to have a ton of assets. So we'll see what happens. I watched Nico Collins get missed on open routes 3 to 4 times this week. You can't compare players in different situations like that. Sure you can. I mean, yeah, I've seen him miss, but yeah, you absolutely can compare Amon-Ra St. Brown and Nico Collins. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. But yeah, there have been some times where Mills has missed Nico Collins. But yeah, what the fuck are you talking about, Travis? Appreciate you for listening. But yeah, I mean, you can absolutely compare players in different situations. What the hell is that? I mean, like, what would you not be doing? I mean, you can say, he wouldn't be that here or there, but yeah, you can actually do that. You can do whatever the hell you want. Don't tell me what not to, though. For Caserio, and fire Caserio and hire the general. I don't think John McClain would be down. Someone says when pigs fly, fire. There is no way Nick had this as his plan before leaving the Patriots. If it was, he does need to be fired. Man, I mean, look, who knows what the plan was? We knew that they were going to have to take it on the chin for a couple of seasons. But I think they were looking long-term plan. I don't know how he felt about Jack. Damn, this is an essay, man. Would love to trust Nick, but inability to hire a head coach that made sense in 2 straight years is hard to ignore. Avoiding the McCown hiring because of a lawsuit. Nick talks about his culture and development, but can't hire a head coach and create a culture and develop. Missed out on several head coaches headed in the right direction. The past 2 years, draft has been disappointing, but his picks, lack of coaching, and develop the culture. Agree. Agree very, very much. Just something to think about. Do I think he should be gone? No. But if you told me I could get Will McClay from the Dallas Cowboys, who also happens to be a Houston native and has gotten 4 promotions in Dallas since 2009 and drafts his ass off and finds talent and is used to disastrous programs like the Dallas Cowboys, and you told me that I could give a blank check to Will McClay and he could come here and hire the coach and pick the players, yes, I would take that. Now, do I think that would happen? Probably not. I don't think he's ever going to leave Dallas. I don't think Jerry will ever let him leave Dallas. But if you told me I could have Will McClay instead of Nick Caserio, don't tell anyone over there at NRG. I would probably do it. I would probably rather have Will McClay, if we're being honest. Davis Mills is back at quarterback. Davis Mills is your quarterback. We knew this. We talked about this on Sunday. It was clear that it was going to happen. And Davis Mills is back as your starting quarterback, which I think is a good thing because I think there might be a possibility Davis Mills starts some big games for this team in the next couple of years. Backup quarterbacks often play. We often see them on the field. I think Davis Mills could have a future as a backup quarterback, and there's a chance he could be starting some big games next year or the year after because quarterbacks get hurt. So I want to see how Davis Mills responds. Is it the end-all, be-all? No, but I'm glad that Davis Mills is back because I didn't think Kyle Allen could be worse than Davis Mills, and I'll be damned. Kyle Allen was worse than Davis Mills, despite a decent second half against Miami that Lovie Smith held his hat on. We'll see what happens. We'll see how he finishes the season. I don't think there's anything he can do to play his way into being the starting quarterback next year. But Davis Mills is back because why the hell not? And Lovie Smith learned his lesson. I gave Lovie Smith props for this on In the Loop today. I thought Lovie did a good job going up there and saying, yes, Davis Mills is going to be our starting quarterback. Instead of making a fool of himself like he did 2 Wednesdays ago, Lovie Smith went up there. Lovie Smith, regardless of competitive advantages, regardless of leaks, etc., Lovie Smith went up there and Lovie Smith announced the starting quarterback. Good job. Lovie Smith, no one's going to accuse him to being completely up in the times of football these days, but I thought it was a good job progressing, and good job not looking silly and not looking foolish and just going up there and saying Davis Mills is the quarterback. I do, however, I agree with Brandon Scott, my coworker at Sports Radio 610. I don't think this is like some sort of victory lap for Davis Mills truthers, if there still are Davis Mills truthers. Kyle Allen sucking has nothing, like it doesn't make Davis Mills look any better or worse. Is this a situation where a quarterback can succeed at the highest level? No. But Davis Mills and Kyle Allen have both been terrible. They've been awful. No matter what situation you put him in, yes, if you put better players around a quarterback, he's going to be better. They've both been awful. So I don't think anything more or less about those guys. I don't think this is like some sort of victory lap. No way Nick plan leaving the Patriots. Don't know what that means. Bring back Rick Smith. Why do we want Rick Smith back? I like Rick Smith. I love what Rick Smith did, but why do we want Rick Smith back so much? What is going on? I hear like Kubiak, ring Kubiak's son in. I love Gary Kubiak. He's a listener of the station. He's a friend of John Lopez. Funny as hell. Man, he roasted McClain about as good as I've ever heard someone roast. He could have been on Comedy Central with the way that he roasted McClain at the McClain roast earlier this week. Man, he was dirty too. But why do we want these guys back? Why do we want these ties back? I mean, I understand back in the day when like Al Davis would bring back Raiders who won Super Bowls and stuff like that. We want to bring back Rick Smith and we want to bring back Gary Kubiak. Really? Don't we want to take the next step? Just always hear all these names and stuff. He did build the equity, but honestly, I don't trust Caserio in future drafts, and that's fair. And that's very fair. It's prime equity right now, though, for sure. The whole Patriots tree needs to be put to bed with anyone thinking of picking from it again. Hasn't been great. And it's funny because John Robinson was one of the prime examples that you would use when talking about, someone who had succeeded from there. John Robinson gone. He gone. Mike Vrabel, happy, I think. I don't know if Mike Vrabel gets too happy. I think we need to talk more about winning teams with real winning culture like the Astros, rather than this clown show on Kirby. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, man. Thank you very much. Let me just punt on that. I'm going to talk about the Astros. Why is Houston like the weird city where, and I blame it on like the OG like radio guys that, thought it was cute to like talk about the Texans and, oh, we like the Texans and, they suck. And, let's talk about the Texans and all that type of stuff. Yeah, the Astros are great. Astros got nothing to do with the Texans. You can enjoy the Astros and still cover your NFL team. Like you're not getting like some sort of hardo cool points for saying, the Astros are good. Astros, no shit. No shit, man. Texans are a joke. No shit. Get that. No doubt. No doubt at all. QB doesn't matter. Mills getting experience is the only reason to start Mills. We're not winning another game this year, no matter what, who is starting. That would be fine. I don't know if Mahomes, Allen, Brady, or Rodgers or Herbert would win more than 1 or 2 games. Bullshit. You're telling me Mahomes, Allen, Brady, Rodgers wouldn't win more than 1 or 2 games with this team? Come on, man. Did you watch the games? Did you watch the Denver game? Did you watch the Chicago game? Did you watch the Indianapolis game with some of the throws that Mills missed, including the flea flicker? I mean, they would definitely beat Cleveland. I mean, that's easy to say, but let's just be serious about it. Yeah, they would win more than 1 game. I know you're just being shocking, which I can sometimes respect. Rick Smith would bring stability. Would he? I would love to bring back Rick Smith. Forget about Coobs, but Smith is a real GM. I guess Caserio is a real GM. I think. I don't know. Landry, so do you think the Texans have so many rookies, if it is the coaches, that are not showing and teaching them and just experiencing them? What are they doing? I don't know. I think it can be coaching too. I appreciate everything you do, Landry. Thanks for the hard work, Bubba. Thank you, man. I would not rather be anywhere else. By the way, I'm going to be on in Dallas at 8:00, and I'm going to do the cap and trade with Texans cap coming up. I'm worried with Cal's involvement than Nick. Cal needs to back off. Does he? I kind of think they need someone to get in there and nudge him a little bit. Cal backed off for Bill O'Brien. Didn't he? I mean, Jack Easterby, Bill O'Brien was 100% on board with Jack Easterby. I had Bill O'Brien tell me we were having a couple beers. Jack Easterby is going to be the guy that helps turn this around, even after I'm here. That's what he said. I think Cal and Hannon need to get more involved. I'm not saying they need to start drafting guys and stuff, but isn't Cal just like staying out of the way? Isn't that what got you in this mess? Would you have liked Cal to step in and not, get in on the DeAndre Hopkins trade? Would that have excited you? Sure as hell would have excited me. We knew that immediately, though. What's our record with Watson on this team? Which Watson? The one we saw Sunday or the one that we saw in the past? Because the one we saw Sunday, they would be 0 and whatever because he was bad. Let them call the game and we might win 2 or 3. No, Patrick Mahomes would have them competing. We would have won 4 games with a better QB, but that's about it, in my opinion. I mean, if you had Patrick Mahomes, you're probably winning more than 4 games. Unfortunate that the Jags are the only team they can beat. This is true. Ryan's for head coach, Coob's kid, or Frank Reich for OC. All right. And Cal don't know what the heck he's doing. Okay. I understand why you might feel that way. Tony Pollard, future Texan, question mark. Should the Texans overpay for a running back in the offseason? I said this today, got a little bit of pushback. I don't think Dameon Pierce is a quality starting running back for a long time in the NFL. I think you need to lower the touches. I think you need to get him a running mate. And I think in a perfect situation, Dameon Pierce is like what Jonathan Stewart was to D'Angelo Williams, or what Marion Barber was before they kind of ran him into the ground. And the example I used was James Robinson with the Jags his rookie year. He was 5th in the league in rushing. Looked great. He's kind of fallen off. He's kind of topped out. I think Dameon Pierce is a guy. I mean, I think Dameon Pierce has the potential to where he could lead the league in touchdowns. But I don't think you need to be handing him the rock 20 plus times a game. I don't. 4th round pick, double-digit carries 7 times at Florida. I don't think he's a guy you hand the rock to 20 times. Just don't. I think the Texans need another running back, maybe 2, that can do different things with some explosiveness. Tony Pollard right now. If I were the Cowboys, I would not pay Tony Pollard a lot. And more times than not, I'm not a fan of giving running backs second contracts because you regret it. But if you are going to have a quarterback on his rookie deal, you do have a gaping hole at running back. Why not bring in a guy that when he's been on the field, he's been one of the best running backs in football? That's just a fact. He averages over 5 yards per carry. I think the only other guy that does that during that time is Nick Chubb. He's a good receiver. When he starts, he's one of the 2 best running backs in the NFL. It's facts. It's just facts. Like it's not, it might, you can say it's a small sample size, but it's just facts. So if you're the Texans, you're looking to make an impact. The wide receiver market sucks. You're probably going to have to draft a wide receiver. You're going to lose Brandon Cooks. Why not overpay a running back in this situation, especially someone who doesn't have a lot of tread, who's one of the best players in the NFL when he does his thing, and then you have a thunder and lightning type of situation with Dameon Pierce and Tony Pollard. What say you? What say you? Would I do it if I were Kansas City and I was paying Patrick Mahomes? No. But in this situation where you're going to have at least 12 more rookies on the roster, I think you had 15 or 16 last year? You're going to have all the cap space. Is it a bad idea to overpay a guy who's the best running back in the NFL and you save Dameon Pierce? And Dameon Pierce absolutely smashes. Dameon Pierce is your finisher. That's the guy you hand it to at the end of the game. He wears people out. If Cal hypothetically turned out to be really competent, I'm all for Tyrant Cal. Jim Crane appears to be doing the fine steering the ship himself. Yes, but Jim Crane's the best owner in the history of this city, I believe. Teams need running backs like pitchers in baseball. Yeah, I think the running back's undervalued. I think in this situation, overpaying would be something. I want to see what Nick thinks about running backs. He liked them in New England. They were churning them like crazy in New England. But I think that he should figure that out. And I would consider overpaying Tony Pollard in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised if Caserio is gone, and why would I be? I'm sure they knew they were going to be trash with no money. Very fair. Pollard, way more explosive than Pierce. I'm on board, or draft Robinson. You know how I feel about Bijan. Shout out to him. Landry, I started the petition last week on Reaction Monday. Caserio must go. Bring in my guy, Clay. Okay. Shout out to Dominic up there in Jersey, holding it down. for the Texans. Would you rather overpay for an O-line like the Bengals or roll the dice with the running back draft? How much better do you think the Bengals actually made their offensive line is my question. I don't know that. I mean, I know they need interior O-line. You're going to need a center, and you're probably going to need a guard. Kenyon Green's going to be your starting guard coming into next year. He's going to be one of them. So, I mean, how much are you really going to have to pay for a guard and center? You're going to have a lot of cap space. They need some playmakers on offense. I think this needs to be an offseason where you just go all in on the offense, especially if you draft the quarterback. And look, you're probably going to bring in another quarterback, so you want to surround him. Love you, bro. Love you too. How much cap does the Texans have available after the season? A lot. And they're probably Texans join Texans cap at 8:00. He's the one that's good at that and clearing space. Laramie Tunsil's probably going to get a new deal. And that'll even clear more cap space because his cap hit's crazy right now. But they're going to have a lot of cap space. They'll be up there near the top when it comes to cap space. Round Chubby Bear, rather just draft A-Chain. Okay. You think A-Chain's going to be best running back in the NFL? Like Tony Pollard has been when he starts? I don't know. I like A-Chain. I like Gibbs. I like Bijan Robinson. I like a lot of these backs coming in. I'm in favor of an overpay at this point with the rookie QB. And who knows what Pollard can be. And I also just want to preserve Dameon Pierce and make him kind of the finisher. I was a realistic Mills truther. This is definitely a victory lap. Mills is not the guy. Fair. We need to pair Quentin Johnston with Bryce Young. I don't know when Quentin's going to go in the draft. I'm really intrigued to see what he runs in the 40. By the way, Quentin Johnston was a Tom Herman decommit. I'm really intrigued to see what he runs, where he's valued and stuff, and how people see him against Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. Marvin Harrison's not eligible. If Marvin Harrison were in this draft, holy crap. That would be, I mean, he would be one of those guys that you're talking about in the top 5. They're talking about, everybody's talking about Caleb Williams. A lot of people are talking about Harrison being 1-1 next year. But Marvin Harrison Jr., by the way, he looks so much like his dad. It's really trippy. But Marvin Harrison Jr., if he were in this draft, just like if Smith and Jigba were in the draft last year, I don't know how Ohio State does it with their receivers. It's freaking ridiculous. That would be someone. But I don't know where Quentin Johnston goes. Is he a top 10 guy? Is he a mid first? Is he a late first? Could you get him with that first pick of the second round? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to think of Quentin Johnston. I'm very intrigued by that. Measurables are going to be nice. I think he's going to run well. Don't know. But we've seen a lot of receivers, really tall receivers coming into the NFL. All of a sudden they look slow. They can't get off the line of scrimmage. But, yeah, he's a bad dude over there at TCU. Jonathan Grenard back on the field. Jonathan Grenard has been he's practicing, should be activated at some point later this year. The dialogue about Jonathan Grenard is going to be the same at camp as it was this year. But there's going to be the contract year factor. We really didn't learn a ton about Jonathan Grenard. Had trouble staying on the field again. Really wasn't very productive. 1.5 sacks. Wasn't holding up very well against the run. So we need to get some more looks at Jonathan Grenard. It would be nice for him to get out there in one of the next 5 games or so. Is it possible to trade number 1 pick and possibly move back for CJ? Pretty sure we get brought. Yeah, it's possible. And I think that's one of the the second most intriguing possibilities is trading back and getting even more picks. Michael Mayer to pair with Bryce in the first round. They need tight ends. It's one of the weak. It was. I was really disappointed in how much they neglected. I mean, that might be another overpay. The tight end market will be interesting this year. You have Dalton Schultz, who's on the Cowboys as well. Mike Gesicki is going to be on the market. He's kind of not. He doesn't really fit with what the Dolphins are doing right now, so his production's gone down. And there's some intriguing tight end names. So overpaying tight ends and overpaying running backs, I think, is something that the Texans should be open to. But yeah, I think I would look out for some of the tight ends, and I could easily see the Texans being, in on trying to get the top tight ends in the upcoming draft. And that's why, that second round pick that I obsess over that they maybe could have gotten for Brandon Cooks, maybe, which is what I heard they could have, but who knows? That would have been the position where you could get the top tight end. But who knows? I mean, Nick Caserio, if he is here, the most important draft of his career, and I know that he wasn't in charge of all of the picks, the most important draft of his career, and I don't think Tom Brady's still playing if this draft doesn't happen, is when he got Gronk in the second, and then he got Aaron Hernandez later on in the draft. So he knows how good tight ends are. He also knows how important running backs are. I mean, they took running backs in the first round. They brought running backs in, and they got late round guys and used them. So tight ends and running backs, if Nick Caserio, if anyone should know the importance of having running backs with multiple skill sets that contribute, and tight ends, not just one, but multiple tight ends, I would think Nick Caserio would be that guy. So next year, you got to think they're aggressively going to try to get that done. And it's also a quarterback's best friend to get that done. Nick says Texans need new uniforms next season. It would be a good restart. I agree. Even if it's just the red, I think new uniforms, a little rebrand would be cool. You're not the only person I've heard say that. I've heard a lot of people feel that way. Any good DTs in the offseason free agency to help the run D? Man, that goes back to the Kenyon Green. Jordan Davis sure would look nice right now, right? I know he was a 2-down guy, but Jordan Davis with the Eagles. Woo. They would have just stayed put and taken him. Who knows what would have happened? New logo too. So we're talking uniforms. That's just kind of where we are at. Other thoughts on the Texans. We've talked about Caserio and that smoke and the possibility of being one and done. We've talked about Davis Mills being the quarterback and the potential backup in the future. We've talked about Lovie Smith learning his lesson. And we've talked about Grenard being back on the field and the Tony Pollard hypothetical. Other than that, 17-point spread. I took the 17. I got Texans plus 17. Do I feel great about it? No. Does it make the game more interesting to watch on Sunday? You bet your ass it does. So I took the plus 17. So go fight cover, Texans plus 17. Just keep it close-ish. 14 is not really close, but it would definitely be a nice little dub for me. So we'll see what happens. We need another middle line. Man, we need everything. We need everything. We got plenty of time to get to that. And no matter how bad things get, just always remember. Oh, yeah, and reminder real quick. Jalen Petrie is going to be live on the show tomorrow. So we're going to have Jalen Petrie on In the Loop, Sports Radio 610, Odyssey app, fire it up. Keep the subscriptions coming. Much appreciation to all of you. Jalen Petrie live tomorrow. We'll talk to him about his great game and how it's been for him as a rookie, because it's been an up and down process for the local guy, but he's shown some good things, and hopefully his best days are ahead. And no matter what the days do look like, just remember, we are in this together. 8 o'clock, 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. I'll be on that. 9 o'clock, Cap and Trade. Tomorrow, Jalen Petrie. Fire up the Odyssey app. Keep the subscriptions coming. Might be able to get to 1,000 before the end of 2022, which was the goal. So keep it going, keep it coming. I'm not going to half-ass this. Some people start YouTube stuff. It's every other day. Nah, every day. Every day. Although I'm going to Philly tomorrow, so it might be a little bit more difficult, but I'll get it done. We'll get it done. And I appreciate you all for riding along. We're all in this together. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.